Hi guys, welcome to another episode of the world famous podcast, Beating the Press. You've got your two hosts, myself, Ty, and we've obviously got Kristian with us as well. Thanks for joining us firstly. If this is the first time you've decided to listen to us and football joke kind of thing, can you please do that magical thing, subscribe to our channel, because that's pretty much all we talk about. For our existing viewers, hi, hope you're all well. Looking forward to the festive break and the holidays that come with it. So today, for those of you that have been listening over the last few episodes, and we've obviously had Lewis on as well, the whole drama at Man United and the managers that have changed over. In the Premier League, not just at Man United, obviously Ole has finally gone. He has left the building. They've now got an interim who has replaced the interim until the end of the season. So the interim manager, the current interim manager is Ralf Rangnick, who by all accounts is the German equivalent of Marcelo Bielsa. Everyone seems to hold him in very high regard, including the big two, Jurgen Klopp and Thomas Tuchel. Although he plays slightly different to both of them. So what we're going to do is we're just going to have a quick little look at his appointment, what we think he's done so far, anything we've noticed early doors, and what we think potentially he can achieve for them that the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer couldn't. So with that all being said, I'm going to pass over to Kristian and ask him how he's doing first before he goes into any football related stuff. How are you, my man?
I'm doing amazing. It's obviously my favorite time of year, Christmas period, not only just because it's Christmas and I feel like a kid again, but obviously because of all the fixtures. I love it when the back-to-back fixtures. I love Jurgen to bits, but every year he moans about it, and every year I'm just giddy. I love this period because you're just sick of all the internationals and everything. All that's gone out of the way, and now we're just fixture after fixture after fixture. So yeah, I'm doing really good. But yeah, we were obviously in our last podcast we covered the potential candidates, and I don't think that we covered Rangnick at all. I don't even think I knew. To be fair, I consider myself not crazy knowledgeable, but I'd say I'm average. A little bit more than average. Most fans, I like to think that I know a little bit about football, but in reality, I couldn't tell you how Rangnick came about or the appointments and what type of style he played or anything like that. I knew of his Leipzig team, but I couldn't tell you. But all of a sudden, everybody seems to be some kind of an expert on Rangnick all of a sudden, especially a few of my Man United mates. And by all accounts, it sounds like a good appointment. We obviously discussed Mauricio Pochettino, Brendan Rodgers, Zinedine Zidane, and they probably will come further down the line sometime in the summer if this doesn't go like swimmingly, basically. If it goes well, he might go on continue to be the manager, but more likely it sounds like he's going in a backward capacity somewhere upstairs, directing. I don't know whether it's a cushy number or something like that. That's maybe one of the reasons why it's accepted. But yeah, obviously what we wanted to do is discuss the impact, if any, that he had on his first game in charge. And they played against Crystal Palace the other day. And did you watch the game? Did you watch the game itself?
Yeah, I caught most of it. I mean, I thought you could see what he's trying to do. He's obviously trying to play a high press and be a bit more aggressive on the front foot. The formation is slightly different to what you'd expect from. I mean, the thing is, you've got all these so-called experts now that have, been told what Ralf Rangnick did at Leipzig and whatever Sky Sports told them, they're jumping on the back.
Yeah.
He plays 4-2-2-2, which is 11. Yeah, 4-2-2-2. So it's basically 4-4-2, but a really narrow 4. So it's almost like a box 4 in midfield. Similar to how Southampton play, actually. So Ralf Hasenhüttl, similar formation the way he plays. And he will look to play with two forwards. There's a lot of responsibility on the fullbacks. The things that I noticed, I thought they started well in the first half. They obviously died off in the second, just simply because it's not the way those players have played. It's a high-intensity game, pressing all the time. And I thought Palace could have actually scored before Man United did as well, and that would have been, put a real, would have put the cat amongst the pigeons. But I thought the interesting one, I thought playing Dalot at right back ahead of Wan-Bissaka, as far as where he was fit and could have played. But again,
a good decision in my opinion. It's a good decision.
That was a really good decision. And we're talking aggressive, good decisions. He's made it. He's gone with Freddie McTominay. If that's what he wants to do, fair enough. He even bought Elanga, didn't he, in the second half? And he's got all those other, big names. And So he's making substitutions where it's like, obviously he's only had a day and a half to work with them, and he's like, right, these are my players that I've seen, and I'm buying into the way I want them to play. So I think absolutely brilliant for them. Great start from United. There's obviously, I think for me as a fan, the first thing I've got to be bought in by is the manager in front of a camera, especially a Premier League manager, and he feels like a top manager. Do you know what I mean? The way he speaks, the way he does. Solskjaer's like, we spoke to death about it. Do you know what I mean? Oh, the boss's place, this is where he sits, the Man United and all that. He's like, put all that to bed. He's like, this is how we're going to play. We're going to look to play. Do you know? And any questions, he bats it back, and he gives proper answers. You know what I mean? He doesn't pussyfoot around. He's like, he's educated. He knows the game. He's obviously had huge influence on two, Leipzig and Hoffenheim in particular. He garners respect just for what he's done and how he's treated people within that sort of area that he's worked within. And I just think your first impressions are huge. And I think first impressions he's good. And I think it's going to be a battle for them to finish fourth, because I think they're in the same battle as with Spurs, Arsenal, and West Ham. I think it's one of them four. But I think Spurs are turning a bit of a corner. They've got a top manager as well. So I think it's going to be really interesting. But if I were a Man United fan, I'd be happy with that appointment, because it's the first one which looks like they've actually done some research and it's not a reactionary appointment. They've obviously gone 6 months, we're going to get you in for interim. And the plan is obviously longer term to think who we're going to go in. And I thought it was interesting when he said, you never know, I might stay on. I might recommend keeping me on for another year. Do you know what I mean? And then just one final point as well. He's brought in his own sports psychologist as well. I think that's just come through today. So again,
from an MLA club, wasn't it?
Yeah, and he's just bringing in his own bodies. And obviously Carrick left, and I thought Fletcher being on the bench and a lot closer to him for the first game was interesting as well, because normally Fletcher's up in the gods, and he as a technical director or whatever his title was. So that's interesting to have his know-how in and about that place. But I think the players will have a bit of a shock that he won't give any players respect on their reputation or egos. It'll be all about performance, and that is what will dictate whether you're in the team or not. But no, overall, I think it was a pretty good start. But I think if Jordan Ayew scores that goal, is everyone still saying the same stuff? Do you know what I mean? Because it's completely different. It could have gone. It's Fred with 10 minutes to go. So a bit of context, and I think to be fair to him, he has been reasonable with it. And he's like, no, I think they deserve to win, yes, but it's just the way it happened, and it just showed to go full 90 minutes to play the way the big boys play. Pressing intensity throughout. It's a tough gig, and you've got your fitness levels have got to be sort of through the roof.
Yeah, I was like you. I was quite impressed with United's press early on, but I'm trying to be careful that with any new manager, you're always going to have the crowd behind you, and in turn, that's obviously going to push the players that little bit more, and there's a lot of high intensity. But I was quite impressed because you've seen instantly when Tuchel came in, Chelsea's style changed overnight. You've seen when Klopp came in, pretty much changed overnight.
Yeah.
So they even Pochettino, when he first came in, I think they drew 0-0 off their first game, but they were pressing with intensity. And it's so easy to say that he's just a press master. But obviously there's a lot more to go into it. And hello. Have we got a special guest on the podcast today?
Yeah. So for those people that are just listening, my 4-year-old daughter's just popped into the room now. So she thinks she's on TV. So can you see yourself there?
Yeah.
Okay, what do you think of Man United? Are they good or not so good? Who's that? We're going to keep say hello, everyone. Say bye, everyone. I'm going to bed. Right.
See you later.
Right, night, princess.
Right,
I'm hoping that works for our viewers. Please don't report me to childcare. So basically, she's got to walk to the next room and go to bed herself.
Yeah, you've got to give a like. You've got to give a like for that. Come on, a cute child.
You've got to give us a like and a subscribe. Share it with your friends and family. So look at this. Everyone's involved. But yeah, no, that was my daughter. She has made an appearance. It's her first time. So hopefully she'll go to bed. So this is just two guys, trying to podcast, and we've got family and life gets in the way sometimes. So this is it, isn't it?
It is. This is real TV. So Yeah, going back, I turned on the TV, and I came through it around about 2 minutes into the game, so I didn't know the team. I didn't know what formation they were playing. At first, it took me a bit of time to work out what actually was the formation, and all I could see was they were very narrow, particularly in the press. And like, I played in a 4-2-2-2 before, and it was initially when my first manager came in to our club, and again, like Rangnick, he didn't have a lot of time to drill anything into us. And the one reason why he played 4-2-2-2 was because he wanted to implement a pressing game. Now, if you have a 4-2-2-2, it's very easy for you to have a very compact team, when you haven't had enough time to work on the expansive side of the game, and a team that can play expansively when they attack, and also press very narrowly when it comes time to do that. So that could have something to do with it. That's what I thought initially, but reading more into Rangnick, he's been 4-2-2 for quite some time. So that could be something for obviously the future that they're going to play. But what I did notice, that Man United, although they pressed very well, it was kind of like, right, what do we do now? As soon they won the ball back so many times, and it was like, right, where do we go from here? Jadon Sancho was very narrow. Bruno Fernandes, I think he was meant to be playing quite a lot on the left-hand side, but he was very narrow also. And Ronaldo is not the type of forward that's going to go off into the wings, go on beyond them. It was kind of like there were just banks and banks. And I think that's why they struggled to break them down. It was only really Rashford that was pulling out onto the wings. So it'll be interesting. Yeah, sorry, go on.
No, I thought, yeah, absolutely. You know, naturally when it goes, like, you're going to have a narrow formation in possession, so that's why your fullbacks are really important. And I think that's one of the reasons why you picked Dalot. He's obviously better than Wan-Bissaka once he gets in the final third. This isn't rocket science. Modern football, your fullbacks are probably your most important players, because they generally will be the outlaws. They're the ones that get time in the ball. So you look at every fullback of the top teams in the world, they are unbelievably talented. You know what I mean? I don't know. You got Trent, Robbo, Walker, Cancelo, Chilwell, Reece James. You know what I mean? These are just like top players. You know, you go through and they're just like, so and sometimes, well, you've even got like wingers that convert into fullbacks, just because the days of a fullback having to defend against a winger who's going to run him, there's not many. It just doesn't happen. You don't defend 1v1 that often as a fullback. A lot of times as a fullback, it's covering space, it's covering the man, it's covering centre halves, it's intercepting, it's all that sort of stuff. Because the game is so quick, it's very rarely is it you get, firstly, the winger will not get the opportunity, because if he gets it, it'll normally be fullback will be up his ass, so it's not going to be able, in those opportunities where he has to fronted him up on his running, it just doesn't happen, because you get another person, you get the defensive midfielder on the right side of centre midfielder coming across to help to protect him. So the whole bit about Wan-Bissaka being a brilliant defender, that's all right if you're going to be defending for 80% of the game. You know, you're playing for Palace. But when you're playing for one of the big clubs or one of the big clubs, you're going to have the possession most of the time. So he's obviously watched a lot of games and thought clubs are letting Wan-Bissaka have the ball and it just breaks down every time. So let's just get another fullback and then it's going Dalot. The only issue I see is, you know, the fourth. So you got your back four, you got your two holding midfielders, and you got your two tens. But the tens aren't normal tens; they're sort of playing half spaces. Now, half spaces, for those that don't, it's like if you split the pitch into 5 spaces, okay? So you got your outside 2 wide areas, and then your 2-1 inside, they're your central area, they're your half spaces, sorry. And then you got your middle, which is central. So the 2 sides just outside the central, they're called your half spaces. So those 10s will play there. Now, a lot of times, it's like the work they've got to do without the ball. So obviously, when the ball gets switched over, they're going to have to squeeze out, and the other side's going to have to come over. So there's so he'll only have a day and a half to work on it. So there's so much he's got to work on as well. Now, putting Jadon Sancho is that 10, that's not his really position. So you've got to sort of work a form. And if he's going to go with the idea, this is my formation, I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to put players within the way I want to play. That's all right. But I think one of his interviews, he said the players dictate what formation we play. So I don't know after one game, if we all go, he's playing 4-2-2 because that's what he's always done, and that's what he did in the first game. I don't know. I think he's just one of those where, his start is gone with what he knows, he's gone with the day and a half of training. But the next sort of 5, 6, 7 games will tell what formation he actually ends up. Yeah. I wouldn't read too much of the next results, because there's obviously the new manager bounced, but their run of games are unbelievably easy. Do you know what I mean? I think
Yeah,
even
I'm
if
just looking at
Solskjaer was
that.
in charge, they would have actually had a lot of. They're pretty much playing all of the bottom half teams. I think there's no one there that you'd watch and think, "Oh, that's a tough game," because I don't see it. So that he
Yeah.
has got. I mean, maybe it was tactical to give Carrick the 3 tough games and then bring him on with sort of the easy games to bring the sort of morale up and whatnot. But I think it's going to be interesting. I think tactically it's going to be really interesting to see how he sets up, especially against the bigger teams. Especially against the bigger teams. Are you going to play? Like, what's your default way of playing? I think from that game, you almost know. We've had the conversation before. We had Lewison as well about what's Man United's identity. We don't know how they play. We don't know how Solskjaer plays. We don't know. But with him, even after one game, you're thinking, actually, we can't. If he plays like this next week, we know how they play. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, then the question will come again: how does he set up against the big teams? Because the big, when I say the big teams, it's Liverpool and Man United, Man City. As much as I think Chelsea are, I think Chelsea still, when they play against other big teams, they're still happy to give up possession and play the counter attack. Whereas them two are the most attacking front foot teams in the world. And when you come up against them two, it's like, how do you play? Are you going to go toe for toe? Are you going to sort of play the traditional way of trying to low block but play the break, whichever other team does? Obviously, your counter attacking patterns of play are going to be different, but that's essentially, that's your blueprint, how you play against and hope to get something. But yeah.
Yeah. When United were in comfortable possession the other night, they didn't, like, especially the back four, they didn't really, they were more direct more than anything else. And when you're playing a 4-2-2-2, you need to build the play, especially because your fullbacks are so involved in it. You can't afford to basically go direct. If you're going to go direct, you've got to have willing runners into the channel and be able to hold the ball up enough time for your fullbacks to get involved in a play. Too often the other night they were just playing like diagonal balls going down the wings, and it was just too. I just found when it were in comfortable possession, obviously it's early days, they were just going a little bit too direct for what the formation requires, especially because of the importance of the fullbacks. But it was interesting that you were saying there that obviously they've got some good fixtures coming up, and this is a perfect opportunity for them to work on this formation, because in the majority of the games they're going to be able to build the player, they're going to be able to play through the thirds, and they're going to be the team on top. And like you say, they would have probably won these games anyway. But it's a good time. They've got looks like they've got young boys at Burn. Young boys. I don't think they'll play first team, but it'll be a good chance for the fringe players to get an idea of the system. Norwich away, which it's not going to be too easy. Brentford's always a difficult game, but in reality, they should be waiting. Liverpool should have as well. You've got Brighton, who will let you play. They'll play. You'll play. Newcastle away. That might be difficult just after Christmas, with it being probably the only game on the 27th. And then they've got Burnley. But all of them are winnable games, and it's a good time for him to come in and start his way of playing. Just a question on, did you, you're quite knowledgeable in the game, did you know much about Rangnick before he came to United?
I knew he'd managed in Germany and at Leipzig, but I didn't. How everyone now saying he's like the godfather of German football, I didn't realise that's how higher esteem people held him in. I take him for his my always. There's a brilliant journalist called Ralf Rangnick who I heard him speak, and he said the reason why he never sort of went to the next level is because he took a couple of years out after Leipzig. I think it was like 12, 13. He could have gone on to Bayern and then he'd have made a name for himself, but he just took a couple of years out. He's obviously got different rules in Russia and stuff, so I don't know. I think the question mark for any manager that hasn't managed a top team and being in Champions League finals and being one of the elite, managing one of the elite clubs in Europe, there'll always be that question mark until you get around to it. So it'd be interesting to see how he does. And again, Bielsa obviously has everyone loves him, but again, Leeds are they are where they are. So I
think it's so refreshing to have somebody not got the job really off nepotism for United. You think of David Moyes, who was passed down by Alex Ferguson, and then you can't help but think that Mourinho was kind of Mourinho's available, we've got to get him type thing. Van Gaal, I don't know where he fits into it all, but and then obviously Ole was just giving it just to give it. I just thought they were going to do it with Carrick as well, but it's good to see another quality manager. I say he's quality. Jurgen says he's quality. I agree with Jurgen. So it's good to see him, and it's going to be so interesting for like football purists how he compares and how he stacks up to the bigger teams when it comes to it, because he's got plenty of time now to implement his patterns of play, and it's going to be so interesting. The very first game that they come across, one of the top three, I think that's when he'll truly get tested.
Yeah, so just moving on, I mean, we could actually put this as a question of the day as well, but I'll ask you first anyway. Where do you think they'll finish?
Not top four. I still don't think they're going to finish top four, because this is not an overnight thing. Just because we've got to be realistic that this was a very poor Palace team. I have never seen, Palace have been so good this season, and people might put it down to credit to United, but they couldn't string 5 passes together. It was the worst that I've seen a Conor Gallagher play. Wilfred Zaha was constantly running off the pitch. And then obviously you had the factor that Fred actually scored a worldie with his right foot to win the game. So we've got to take it into context that this is not going to be an everyday occurrence. They are going to come unstuck against some of these teams, and definitely against the better teams. So I still think that they've got a lot of growing to do. I think they've got a harder task than they've got a hard task overthrowing even West Ham. I think West Ham are going to be there and thereabouts. I think Tottenham will get their act together eventually. I think really that they're the only two that they're going to be fighting with for that 4th place. But I can't see past West Ham for the 4th position at the moment. Arsenal are nowhere near it. So I'm thinking they're going to end up 5th. What about yourself?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be really, really tight. I think the games they play against them 2 teams will matter. I think I've been really disappointed with Arsenal, and now this is a different podcast, but my God, Mikel Arteta is basically Ole Gunnar Solskjaer version 2. I don't care what you say. He talks a great game, but it's like
never understood it.
No, he's got so many. I mean, he seems to be very much of a bit of a power freak and a bit of an egomaniac with making decisions on players. And I mean, that's him. I mean, it sounds a bit stupid. He's obviously the manager, and that's his job to make the decisions. But it's just the way he goes about it, and being really stubborn with some players and sticking with them. I mean, the team he had out. I mean, why is Kieran Tierney on the bench? That Nuno Tavares is dog shit. I don't care.
How long has he been at Arsenal now? How long has
it been? About 2 years. It's been about 2 years, and I just don't get it. I watched the game against Man United. They were 1-0 up. They were there for the take. They should have been 3 or 4 out of sight. They were there for the taking. Mm-hmm. They just kept going backwards and just not playing with any thrust, any penetration, any risk. And it just knew it was coming. I'm like, they've just given up here. They've just given they've given the momentum of the game to Man United, and I just did not get it. And against Everton as well, they got what they deserved. I just think, so that's just a different podcast, but I think Arteta's really, his time's running close as well. But just back to the question, I agree with you. I think it's between those 3, Man United, West Ham and Spurs, but I think Conte's got a bit of a head start on him because he's had a month in there. And Man United's squad is still unbalanced, and I'd be interested to see what formation he plays, and if he does put players in his formations they don't really want to play, but they're in the squad. I mean, like Jadon Sancho playing as a number 10. He's a great footballer, but he's not a 10. I mean, he's a winger. That's just the way he was. Or either side.
The top managers generally come in and they pick their formation, and then they were like, right, the players you're going to have to fit into that formation because this is the style of play that I'm going to play in the near future. This is what I'm going to be playing for time. But because he's not staying for the full term, or potentially not playing for the full term, it might not be the idea of the future manager. So you, like you say, it'd be interesting to see if he's going to stick with that.
Yeah. So just to finish it off, guys, question for you all. Question of the day.
No, you were going to say. Did you think? Where do you think United will actually finish?
5th.
5th. Yeah.
I think 5th as well. Yeah. So, question for you guys. Now you've heard both of us. Question of the day is: where do you think Man United will finish this season with the interim manager Ralf Rangnick in charge? And as always, we say if you've got this far, You must like what we're talking about. So just scroll down at the bottom of the screen, just underneath the video. There's a few little emoji signs. There's a thumb up. Click that. Click the subscribe button.
Do it now. Just do it now.
Do it now, yeah. Like it, share it, subscribe it, let your family and friends know. So there's these two guys, brilliant podcasters. That even the daughter's made an appearance as well. I've never seen that on a podcast. So share the love, and until next time, guys, it's adios from me.
See you later, guys.